This meeting of the Sedona Fire District Governing Board is now called to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence for the firefighters and other first responders who have passed since our last meeting.
Let's take a moment to remember the 2 firefighters and 8 police officers that passed since our last meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Roll call. Helen McNeil,
Present.
Corey Cooperman, Diana Christensen,
Here online.
Scott Springett,
Present.
and Lance Waldrop.
Here.
Chief, the opportunity to recognize staff for their service.
All right, we've got 2 folks to recognize tonight. With weather challenges and other things, they weren't able to make it in person. First, we want to recognize firefighter paramedic Sam Fry for 10 years of service with Sedona Fire District. We hired him in November of 2015, and he went to medic school in August of 2018. He's got a unit citation and graduated from Flathead Community College and is Fire 1 and 2 cert. Next, we'd like to recognize John King, Captain Paramedic John King, for 15 years of service. He was hired in October of 2010. Got medic certified in December of 2013. Promoted to engineer in July of 2018, and then captain in March of 2025. His recognitions include Customer Service Award, multiple unit citations, and Firefighter of the Year. He's got an associate's degree from Mesa Community College and a bachelor's degree from Northern Arizona University, as well as U.S. Army Infantry School. So I just want to say these guys are both assets to our organization. They both bring very unique perspectives and a very unique sense of humor. And they're both very involved in moving the needle, as we say, as it relates to district activities and opportunities for us to get better. So I will get out to the stations and get their pins to them as soon as they are on shift again. So thank you.
Great. Well, Captain King and Firefighter Fry, I hope you're listening to this. And I want to add my thanks on behalf of the board for all the things that you do on behalf of the Sedona Fire District and on behalf of the people of Sedona. Thank you for your service. Chief, do we have any members of the public this evening?
We do not.
Okay. So we now move to the consent agenda. We have in front of us the consent agenda for the regular meeting minutes of October 21st, 2025, and the executive session minutes for September 16th, 2025. So I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the October 21st regular meeting minutes and the executive session minutes for September 16th. Do I have a second?
So
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, consent agenda is approved. Do we have Mr. Boulder?
We have Sarah today.
Yeah.
And real quick, Diana, I saw you say aye, but I think you ended up back on mute, so apologies for that. And Sarah, you're set.
Perfect. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Simonton, and I am here on behalf of Gabe. It's a little bit of a busy week with the holiday next week. Our board meetings all got compressed, so we're we're tag teaming each of the board meetings as much as possible this week. So you get me tonight. If you want to move to the next slide, and we'll go through our October financials. So first up, looking at the month of October, we had total revenue of about $8.9 million for the month of October. This is up over budget by about $127,000. The two main categories of revenue that we have is our tax levy revenue, which was actually under budget by $86,000. We'll talk about what it's looking like year to date in just a minute, but it was under budget for the month, about $86,000 for tax levy revenue. And then our non-tax levy revenue was actually over budget by $213,000. Most of that was stemming from additional ambulance collections. So we have about $186,000 of over budget on our ambulance revenue for the month of October. Looking at our total expenses for the month of October, we were $2.8 million of total expenses, which is over budget by $195,000. Most of that you can see is in our personnel category, which is over budget by about $192,000. At first, that looks a little concerning and a little scary, but really, it's really driven based off of additional wildland deployment wages. So as we increase our wildland, as we go out on more wildland assignments, we'll start to see additional revenue to help offset that too, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the year-to-date amount. We do see an increase in our October numbers for building and land, which is over budget by about $16,000. That's just due to some of the projects that are going on around the stations. And then our vehicles and equipment is under budget by $2,000. Communications and IT is over budget by slightly over budget by about $3,000. And then managerial is under budget by $15,000. Moving to the next slide, looking at our year-to-date numbers. So our total revenue for year-to-date, we are at $10.9 million worth of revenue compared to a budget of revenue of about $10.2 million. So we're about $770,000 over budget there. That's a great news story. Looking at our tax revenue, so even though October was under budget, tax revenue collections through October is actually over budget by about $200,000. And I'm happy to report we're about 40% of the way collected for the entire year. So we're on track to be right at budget for the year, and we're actually collecting that sooner, which allows us to earn more interest on our money to feed back into our reserves. Looking at our non-tax levy revenue for year to date, we are at $1.8 million compared to a budget of $1.3 million. So we're about $578,000 over budget there. Again, great news story there. Our ambulance collections, we've collected $335,000 more than we had anticipated in the budget. And we're actually just shy of about 50% collected for the annual amount. We've collected about 1.1 compared to a budget of 2.3. And then the other big driver of that variance is additional wildland revenue. So we've collected about $121,000 more on wildland this year to date, compared to our budget. And with that, we are just shy of our annual amount. So anything that we're collecting now and into the rest of the year will be above and beyond our budgeted amount. Looking at our total expenses year to date, we are just under budget by about $75,000 under budget spent. We do see some big category swings there in the expense categories, and most of that's in the personnel line item. Personnel is over budget year to date by about $135,000. That's again really attributable to the fact that to make more revenue in our wildland, we need people to go out on wildland, and therefore that costs more money. And so really, the big driver of that $135,000 variance year to date in personnel is because we've had more wildland deployments and that associated benefit costs for those people that go out on those assignments. Obviously, it's offset by additional revenue. Building and land is slightly over budget by about $19,000. Again, that's really driven based off of the projects that we have going on around the stations. Vehicles and equipment is under budget by $83,000. Most of that's just timing around some of our purchases of small tools and equipment and some repair and maintenance on those equipments. And then we have some slight savings so far through the first 4 months of the year in our vehicle fuel costs. Looking at our communications and IT year to date, that is under budget by $31,000. Again, that's really timing. We have annual subscriptions. And so it depends on when those annual payments and bills go out or come in to us on when those get paid. So that's really by the end of the year, that'll all be cleaned up. But it's really just timing based off of how we budget versus how those costs really come in. And then looking at our managerial costs, we're $114,000 savings so far year to date through that. And again, most of that's in our travel and training area. Across the board, really, our travel and training costs are down year to date so far. Looking at our next slide, which is the percentage of budget spent. So we're 33% of the way through the year. We've spent 36% of our budget. Again, knowing that that's, slightly higher than the 33% through from a month perspective. It's really driven though based off of that additional costs for the wildland deployments. And when you strip that out, we're actually doing very favorable to our expenditures. Looking at our percentage of expenses year to date, 87% of our cost is related to personnel, while communications is about 4%, operations is 6%, and managerial makes up about 3% of our costs. And then finally, looking at our cash position slide. We ended the month of October with just about $21.7 million worth of cash. Compared to about $21.1 million this time last year. So continuing to see additional revenue coming in sooner, as well as kind of managing our costs really well towards that budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Good questions. Okay, I have one question for you, Sarah. I know that we don't rely on the wildland revenue, and we sort of hold that aside. But we do put the wildland related expenses in the regular budget. And I'm wondering if it makes any sense at times like this when there's a large personnel expenses towards wildland, but there's also revenue coming in to just hold that separate. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. And we actually do have it separated. It's a class code. So there's a delineation that we have in the system that allows us to separate out the wildland component of it. Just in your financial report says we're rolling it all up. We're rolling it up at the total level. And so that's why you're seeing it in there. But we can provide kind of what that wildland and non-wildland look like. We could add that to the report very easily.
Well, I'm just thinking when it skews the look so much, to do that would just make it a little cleaner.
We could definitely add that as a supplemental report in the budget or in the board packet. It's very easy to do.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Any other questions? So I'll make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of October 2025. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Report's approved. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
Zulus, over to you.
Right. Steve Doyle is on vacation, so I'm going to cover his stuff. Not a lot of major significant events since the last board meeting. We did have a pretty complex automobile rollover on Highway 179. That when the paper called me for a review of the incident, I had difficulty trying to explain it frankly. The individual left the roadway, landed on top of a building, and it rolled down between a retaining wall and the building, taking out the power box. And in the process, we lost a pet, and the patient was extricated. And those are complex issues, and it was pretty neat because the the crews did a really good job of video recording it. They're going to use it to develop some training. And so, just other than that, just our usual suspects, if you will. As far as human resources goes, I'm happy to report that unfortunately, we did not fill the IT position. We're working on retooling and we're sending it out just for the applicant pool we got. However, that is the only vacant position we're dealing with right now. So that's what I'm happy to report about. In addition to that, our 3 firefighters are in their 3rd week of training and they'll be released to the floor at the end of this week, and they're all doing really well and getting some great feedback from them, which is expected from new people. And then administration wise, Elisa and crew are continuing to do a deep dive, some with JBG, some with our other vendors, as charged by the board to review our 3rd-party vendors. We're looking at a lot of different process improvements with ambulance billing, with working with Sarah at JBG to streamline some processes and really dial in our contracts and get them. We've got 3 contracts that are open right now that we're finishing up, all IT related, and just really the operational support as it relates to administration is really focusing on fine tuning and right sizing the variety of processes we have, and then in addition to that, final updates to the employee handbook, and we continue to work on prepping all the policies for an upload to the soon-to-be revamped SharePoint site. So all that's kind of just in the ether right now, and everybody's putting in their pieces, and the parts are starting to land, and so we're going to start being able to move forward a lot sooner with that stuff. So that's exciting. But
Great.
that's the gist of it. Any questions?
Any questions?
All right, senior
Okay.
right now.
Oh, yeah.
Comprehensive. I'm gonna hit the, so this is version 1 of 2. And version 1 is our CDR data, and we just onboarded and uploaded a new software. It's called First Do. And the impetus for adopting the software for community risk was the fact that Carla and Kirk and their staff have to manage data from 2 counties, the city, and a variety of other vendors, and then our customers. And the old process with the old software required a lot of manual stuff, and basically it worked because Carla learned how to do it. And again, evaluating process that is transferable to new employees down the road, and something that outlives the people that are here right now. We went to the First Do product, but with that, of course, a lot of their stuff's proprietary. So as we populate that new software, we'll be able to generate data, but seeing as it's new, there's no data to generate.
Very well put. And yes, now Carla's got to learn all new stuff. But we all do.
But where she had to remember 15 things before, she has to learn 5 things now.
So when it's all done, it should go smoother. But yes, so right now, all of our data is skewed because there's no way to track what's being brought over from ESO into First Do, and there's a lot of stuff about this. But we'll get there.
It's like trying to put a Chevy motor in a Ford. They like to be.
I get it.
Yeah.
I understand the analogy.
Yeah.
They don't like to share their secrets.
Yes.
So just real quickly, we had a couple of incidents. Dumpster fire out in the village, which did quite a bit of damage to the structure of the dumpster. That was at Delaware County. Can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure that it was ashes from their smoker. So just if you have fireplaces or wood stoves, make sure your ashes are out before you throw them in the trash, especially this time of year. The other one is an interesting one. That's a lithium ion portable generator about the size of a car battery. So they were having some car issues in the village, and they were charging their phones and running some stuff that day, and they plugged it in at 9 o'clock at night, went to bed at 3 o'clock, it blew up in their kitchen.
Oh.
So
That's not cool.
Couldn't find a UL listing anywhere on that thing, so just be cautious of your lithium ion devices, where you charge them and who made them. The last thing I was gonna touch on is the city of Sedona and Sedona PD and Genesee, Coconino County, I
Yes.
believe, did an emergency evacuation testing siren at 3 locations. That was at the Jordan Park tank. They also did over at the parking garage and on Brewer Road. And it was the siren, the air raid sirens, followed by a voice enunciation of what to do. And they were just testing to see how that's gonna work and if they're gonna move on with that in the future or not. That's between PD and the city, I think.
How many phone calls do we get out of that?
I didn't get any.
No, they advertised it well, and for a historical perspective, many moons ago, Sedona Fire installed a system in the canyon, and it's antiquated. It's not up to technology, and really, there's a multi-facets to it. But one of them is political, the other one is chest pounding. But at the end of the day, back then we were proactive, but it's really not and we owned the dispatch center, so we were able to control the message and the system. As we've progressed and counties got on board and the city got on board with emergency evacuation and things like that, it's really in their wheelhouse to control the evacuation and alerting systems. It's statutorily their responsibility. So while we're supporting the city's efforts to get grant funded siren systems for the area, we are just that. We are a supporting role.
So, but the one that we had in the canyon is still operational?
It is sure not.
The signs are up.
Yeah, the signs are up.
Yeah, it is hit or miss, and we keep it limping along because the county may at point certain decide to want to integrate into it, and so we're just keeping it. It'll be different, but yeah, we ought to have a conversation about just taking those signs down. Because we can still kick it off part and parcel, but it really doesn't operate as it was intended to. As we've adopted modern technologies and everything else, it's really it's a rotary phone, and we're on smartphones now.
And as counties have gone to Code Red and Genesis and things like that, it proved to be even more obsolete. It goes off, you're supposed to call a landline that is not staffed after hours because it's our straight landline, which coincidentally right now is out of service because of the weather.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just shows like there's already a gap in just that one piece.
Nice.
So there's better ways to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just real quickly, I'll hit on some events. Our Uptown Halloween Haunted Ambulance was a big hit as always. I maybe had people from other countries telling me how cool it was. So it was always a big hit. Thank you to the admin staff that decorated the heck out of that thing, did a great job. Station 4 crews came out, helped out. It was a great night as always. And coming up this Friday, we're going to smoke alarm walk at the Rainbow Trailer Park, which was scheduled for last month, and then Stormageddon was going to hit, so we had to cancel it. So hopefully this Friday, if water is not over the low water.
Yeah.
Or whenever we want rain, we schedule something.
Yeah.
I'll just keep scheduling.
Yeah.
I'll win on. Coming up also is the Spec Bus for Toys for Tots, and that's the city of Sedona, Sedona PD, and us. We will have an engine, and we escort the bus up to Posse Grounds and they pack it full of toys and give it away to the kids. That's always a good one. And the bike rodeo. And it is a rodeo. And it's Toys for Tots. All these kids are already picked out, selected. Their bikes are selected. They have volunteers that'll take the gym at West Sedona School and put together literally 70 to 100 bicycles. And these kids come every hour. And we, as Sedona Fire, will set up a road course for them. And they do a little road course, and then they ride their bike on home. So it's pretty good. Kids like it.
Most are deserving except for that guy on the right. On the picture.
Yeah, there's always one. And there he is.
On the pink bike. Yeah.
Yep, each of.
Yeah.
And the last thing is evidently last year I just found out about this, but the Clash of the Christmas Heroes. So it's a charity thing between Sedona Fire and Sedona PD for raise money for Toys for Tots, and all the money stays local for toys for the kids in our district in town. So if you want to participate, you just scan the barcode, whichever one you want to vote for, PD or Sedona. We lost last year.
So can I ask you to send the barcode, send that to
We
us?
just, we're putting it out on Facebook and
Okay,
it's on our website, should be on our website, I
I think
believe.
there's some
They- they-
paper ones
website.
hanging up next door too.
Okay.
Thought it was John got with you on the website. I will.
And they locked me in the garage for that event because they figured I was a spy.
Yeah. We have one more event that didn't make the slide deck because I just got it confirmed, and I'll send out an email advising the board, November 30th at Butler Park in Camp Verde. Sedona Fire in concert with Sedona PD will attempt to defend our second place title at the annual Verde Valley softball tournament, where we play the Verde Valley All-Stars, which is a Special Olympic softball team. And it's quite an event and a lot of trash talking. So I'll get that information out to the board.
I think you've already sent it out.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I had or had not. It just, everything materialized. I didn't realize how busy their tournament schedule is, and the people that organize it got with us and were like, hey, we're trying to figure out a date. So I wasn't sure if I had sent it, but I'll resend it out just to confirm. But it's a cool event.
That's no any questions. I'm finished.
Any questions? Okay. Buzz?
So start with some EMS stuff. Onboarding the new hires. 2 of them are paramedics and 1 is an EMT. So our team, what's really neat is we have, with both Chief Baker and I have like teams of teachers now that we can be absent when these trainings are going on instead of having to be in attendance and stuff. So the system, though, at certain days, it seems like there's not as much progress in the things we want to accomplish. Whenever we onboard people, we see that like it's really moving. The machine is creating some momentum, and our folks are raising the bar, and also it speaks to the we trust those folks to teach because they're so invested, and I appreciate that they are invested in EMS, because in fire departments a lot of times that can become sort of the stepchild thing, though it's our core service. And so for Sedona's Fire, we really are a premier EMS agency, because the folks in the past laying the groundwork, but the education that these folks get that come from somewhere else, without disparaging where they came from, even as they're onboarded, which is a minimum orientation, it's already seen as a benefit, even though it's a half-day class, and how much different it is than what they've experienced in the past. So I'm personally proud of that, but mostly because our folks are pulling it off for ourselves and then our customers. So
Well, the collective has been sending the message that very soon this is your organization, so take it over. And I heard this is the first academy where I heard the instructors telling Buzz and Jordan, like, go do your job. We got this. So it's working. And so it was pretty cool.
which we're all pretty busy, so I appreciated that. So that was really great, a really great deal. And actually, one of our folks that you'll meet, because I believe we'll have a badge pinning next board meeting, I believe, for the 3 new folks. One of our new folks who's a medic was going through medic class, and while she was doing her civilian ride-alongs here, she realized this is the place she wants to work. So she tested, became a medic, and then we hired her.
Nice.
And so it's also, again, a testimonial to his organization, what we've got going on. Let's see, another big one is that the government opened, and so our Medicare billings that were latent for 40 whatever days have now been launched, and so we're going to be keeping tabs on that. Elise has been on that with me, with our ambulance billing company A&B, to make sure that we're recouping the funds that we're waiting around. Medicare is our highest payer group, And so that's quite a lot of money so you'll see a swing on that ambulance revenue side in the future. But we're now, it's pretty minimal, private payer only and cash payer. So, we'll see a swing, hopefully.
And we don't
Do
know,
not know how long that takes.
December, January, I think it'll be a noticeable line item change, so we'll see the spike, but
There's also inflation metric that went up for Medicare for ambulance billing for ground ambulance at 2.1% that got approved to, that begins in January. So that doesn't keep up with inflation, but so we'll start seeing that in the receivables after January 1st of 2016. Let's see. As far as fleet goes, there's a million things on all these things. So it's, I'm pretty proud of what we do here. So I'll reel it in. We, with the help of Scott Strizo and Mike Sheehan in Fleet, sold a couple of our surplus engines. And one of them left yesterday. Yeah, so that's to the Wagon Wheel Fire District. So it helps us out and it helps them out.
yes, we didn't know where it was either.
I too don't know. Scott might know.
It's near Basin, small, struggling fire district.
That helps. There's minimal space for Mike and Reese to work. And this property, while it's a larger property, it's covered in a building everywhere you look. So even parking can get in the middle of his workflow because he's constantly moving vehicles around. So having them gone, it's a bigger deal for them. And I imagine Lance can attest to this, to just keep the momentum in their shop. And right now, most everything is, we could classify it as rolling stock. So it's out there on the road. He's doing periodic maintenance, took something out of service for an ambulance out of service for some warranty work. Other than that, Mike and Reese are keeping everything rolling. We are finishing, I was texting even now with Braun Northwest, which is the ambulance company that we get our ambulance from currently. And they're remounting, we're speccing a remount, which is when they put the whole box on the chassis. I've said that in the past. And that we had hoped to get on the board agenda for this board meeting, but
December.
they're working on it at Braun Northwest right now. And so that will be done because it actually is getting done today. It's finalized today. So we'll have that on the agenda for approval, hopefully from you folks. And we can get that rolling. That'll take 2 months to get the chassis, and then about 90 days for them to take the other one off, put it on the new chassis and just refurb the things that we've chosen to refurb. So we'll have in essence, a newer-ish ambulance, a second generation ambulance, and then hopefully do another one in the next budget year.
Sorry, Buzz, who makes our coaches?
Braun Northwest,
I mean, who makes the box?
that's who makes the box.
Okay.
Yeah, it's North Star Emergency Equipment,
Gotcha.
Braun Northwest.
We don't mess with wheel coaching.
We do not.
Good.
For a while we did, but we do not anymore. Yeah. And they're four-wheel drive F550s.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And then a couple GIS things in October. I know you were there, Madam Chairperson, but we hosted the first ever GIS Summit for Arizona in Northern Arizona. Brian Espiau and Matt Spinelli were actually speakers with Esri, which is the league leader in all things global information. And we had about 26 participants from, I think, 15 different agencies all across the state were here. And they did a fantastic job. And the pledge was that they're going to keep that going. It's a lonely business to be in. GIS, they're kind of in a closet with computers. And then when you add public safety to it, it's a niche within a niche. And so they need peers. They need kind of a cohort to bounce things off of and not reinvent the wheel. And so they displayed some of the products that we developed here internally as like testimonials of what you can do with Esri products, but also of them and their sort of like prowess. Seeing
It
a
was
need here.
interesting to, if I can interject, to watch how many jaws were dropping when the guys were presenting, when Brian and Matt were presenting. It was like, could we do that? and, the great guy, so, it was a great event.
Sort of another unsung division within our organization for sure. And then, finally, are you gonna do IT stuff?
No, a little bit, you're on roll.
And then, Bob Moats and team, did all the, when we onboard people, they have to make sure they're plugged in and password capable and all the millions of applications that we have. So Josh Clounce set everyone up with that. They're continuing to develop the SharePoint system app. I don't know what that's called.
Page.
Thank you. They were involved in the IT candidate process, which proved to be unsuccessful. So what Chief Missoula said, we're going to retool that and figure out where to go from here. See a lot of radio building HVAC upgrades for redundancy of protecting the critical infrastructure at the tower sites. Scott was my battalion chief for a million years, so. Scott Schweizer was involved with that with Mike, using the truck with the boom on it to deploy these generators so that our stuff doesn't get too hot.
I got the pictures.
Long overdue. You probably had a tear.
Well, it was amazing. I think that kind of stuff, we can geek accordingly, but that is a capital asset that, the vision a while back was, okay, we could deploy it in varying missions, and there it is, serving the constituency. I was very, very.
Well, and so we have remote mountaintop sites, and I didn't price it out, but just based on other quotes we've gotten, I can't imagine the cost of a full-wheel drive crane to the top of a mountain, and we didn't have to rent one. So it's just the devil's in the details, but it's just having that multi-use piece of apparatus is clutch.
Mobile shop and little
Yeah.
crane. So.
And welder and air compressor.
They also worked on the airport generator, which apparently passed. And I'm just reading Bob's notes, and I am not technically savvy on what he's saying here. There's a lot of words down I don't understand. And then he continues to work on the network upgrades and the channel,
Yes.
radio channel licensing, which I think it was.
I'll touch on, yeah, so, and this blends nicely with my report. Bottom line is you all approved having a third party help us with the licensing because of the complexity. He's finally this week getting something moving because you have to talk to the FCC to get that done, and the FCC was non-existent for a few days. And so if they're now back, they're playing catch up, and now we can roll with that. But it inevitably is a delay.
That's
Any questions? Thank you, Russ.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay,
All right, Jordan is out today, so I will cover. Training, he's just been, we did this past month, we did the Engineers Academy and the task book evaluation process, and that is how you get qualified to drive fire trucks and eligibility for engineer testing process. Also working, we've got flowing 6 and 12-month evaluations over the next couple of months for our new folks to get off probation. And then again, the heavy lift of the academy. I want to give Jordan special thanks. He took on the Verde Valley Training Center. And the quick backstory is, we've got a functional training center down in Cottonwood. And in '94, we built a burn center there and haven't really done many improvements. And then the college put a little building up there. But bottom line is it's been a neglected training space for decades. And Jordan worked to secure with the different Verde Valley training officers kind of a new low-cost footprint for the training center to maximize usable space and improve safety. And he leveraged some of his relationships with different contractors in town. And so we're doing some substantial upgrades to the facility, and the Verde Valley Fire Chiefs, who voted last month, out of our budget to invest $23,000 in the center, and it's really going to improve functionality. And we just landed on the fact that we've got a usable site right now, and that the pipe dream is to have a proper training center with all of the equipment. But right now, that is what we have, and we had a low cost investment to greatly improve its usefulness. And frankly, my predecessors, thanks chiefs, signed this amazing 20-year agreement with the city of Cottonwood and Yavapai College about the restrictions of use of that space. And that's why we're hesitant to invest more training dollars in it. However, those IGAs expire in 2027. So I'm trying to line up an environment where it really is solidified as a fire training center. And our hopes are to further solidify that. Right now, the IGAs are between the Verde Valley Fire Chiefs Association, City of Cottonwood, and Yavapai College. There's two different IGAs, and they really speak to City of Cottonwood asks us to leave, and we have 90 days to vacate type of language. And I'd like to strengthen it so that we can depend more on that space for training in perpetuity. And if we're able to secure IGAs that reflect that, then our hopes are collectively in the Verde Valley to invest in some appropriate and modern training pieces for that piece of property. So again, that's 2027, but we've started to lay the groundwork right now. The college has also all but abandoned that site and has abandoned offering fire service classes on this side of the mountain. And so there might be some opportunities there with that center. So more to come, but yeah, Jordan's put in a lot of work really getting that place fixed up. And when we get it kind of dolled up, I'll offer an opportunity to go check it out if anybody wants to. And in wellness, we continue to plug away. It's been kind of a lull. We did a lot of our equipment upgrades and maintenance and getting ready in a month to launch annual physicals again. So if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Wesley's looking at preparing some new equipment that might change opportunities for physicals and things like that. I've been begging for it for 15 years, so I'm excited.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Only after you're.
Okay. I've been wanting a bike for years. I can't run on an angle on a treadmill, and so we might get one, so it'd be great. But all that's going well, and just if you ask Jordan, he'll never have a moment to rest, but we have created an environment. If he so chooses, he can slow down a little bit. It's just entirely up to him. If he lets, to Buzz's point, some of these guys that are telling us to leave so they can do the job, do it, then he'll have some more time and more bandwidth. He's protected. Any questions?
Any questions?
All right, next. All right, my turn. So as requested, I am doing a deeper financial dive monthly. As you all remember, we did the pension system last month. And
Let me pause you for just
Yes.
1 second. Elise, I should have said this to you at the beginning. If Diane, because we aren't going to hear Diane if she's on mute.
Yeah.
So if she raises her hand or whatever, will you let me know?
I'll tag you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm watching you, Diana, to make sure I don't miss.
Yeah.
Great catch. So as I said, that last month we dove a little deeper into the pension system. This month I wanted to dive a little deeper into revenue and in each kind of point of our revenue. So I'll start with real estate tax, and as you all are aware, we have a mill rate of 2.7592, and basically they take limited assessed evaluation and divide it by 100 and multiply it by our mill rate. That's how they get your annual taxes. And we've got both counties, of course, and that generates for us about a little over $22 million in tax money. The trick with that is the county's assessed evaluation, regardless of what it is, just as some backstory, Prop 117, which passed in 2012, went into effect in 2014. It does not allow for us to our budget to go up more than 5%. It caps it. And anything built after that date, we can recognize. That's why we saw a 5.85% increase last year because of stuff built after that proposition. It has hurt a lot of districts around the state. There's 144 fire districts, and that's been a difficult piece. And for two reasons, we're fortunate. One, the property values in our fire district are high. And two, we've had some regular new construction since that date. Some fire districts that surround us, Summit Fire District right outside Flagstaff, for example, in 2014, they were pretty much built out and they're residential, and it's like set it and forget it. They really have to hope for the best because there's not a new hotel or a new shopping mall coming into town. On the flip side of it, while we all know that Copper Canyon had some financial struggles a couple of years ago, they're one of the fastest growing communities, Camp Verde is, in northern Arizona right now. So a lot of their taxable property is going to be able to exceed that 5%. So it'll take 3-4 years for them to recognize that, but they can forecast some revenue streams that don't exist right now. So it's a positive for them. For us, we're gonna grow in the next few years to be dependent upon property values increasing. However, last check, I think we've got proposed upwards of $120 million in commercial projects alone slotted to start in the city of Sedona. And so that's known, and that's stuff that is preparing to launch. And then beyond that, there's some neighborhoods, some other ideas that are conceptual right now, but if it all comes to fruition, we could recognize an additional, $200+ million worth of real estate being built in our district that will then feed into the tax assessment. And depending on, all the other variables, cost of doing business and inflation and recessions and everything else, that could create an environment where we maintain well for the next 2 decades, or it might create an environment. It just depends what happens. It's just too volatile to really nail, but I'm comfortable with how things are going right now. And then we've got the fire district of 6 assistance tax. That's statutory. It's 0.1% can be assessed. And it's difficult to explain. I'd have to have, I don't know if Sarah's got a Reader's Digest version, but essentially they distribute it amongst the fire districts around the state. And it's capped at a certain amount, and there's some restrictions to it. So while it is helpful, and we recognize a little over $400,000 in revenue from it, it's I believe it's not the stopgap it was intended to be for a lot of the smaller districts. And then, do you have anything to add to FDOT, Sarah?
No, I think you covered it. So it's capped at, I think it's like 415,000 total for each agency. Unless you merge with others, it takes a 5-year average, last 5-year average when you merge, but it is capped. It's not something that is, I know there's been challenges and things that we've tried to take to the state to try to increase that. But nothing's come to fruition of that. And it's really just an opportunity of additional revenue, but it's not going to solve any funding issues.
No. And so the past 2 weeks, I've sat through the Arizona Fire Districts Association monthly meeting. Yesterday I had mayor cities and towns meeting, and then a couple other pre-legislative meetings with some different folks this past month. And in addition to that, President Rodriguez of Local 3690, who works with Sedona Fire, is on a statewide committee evaluating fire district funding mechanisms with the professional firefighters of Arizona. And I'm telling you this because I anticipate the potential. They're looking at everything right now. One of the swirls is to modify the statute on Arizona or fire district assistant tax to increase the revenue generated for districts. Another one is evaluating changes to Prop 117, which I don't think will get any legs. But then a new proposition that will maybe override completely how we do it. I don't see that getting any legs. And then they're looking to push, primarily Pima and Maricopa County Fire Districts are looking to push how, kind of the flavor nationally, where the feds are trying to push more control to the states. One of the other flavors in Arizona right now is pushing more financial control or responsibility to the counties. And as a county special taxing district, evaluating the mechanism where the county is better assisting with funding of fire districts. Nothing's happened yet, but those are some of the squirrels out there I wanted to make you all aware of that might impact us positively or negatively. And then our non-tax levy revenues, we've got communication rents, and that's primarily, to oversimplify it, we let T-Mobile and Verizon park on our towers, and they pay us to do it. And then ambulance services, I think we've covered that extensively. And as stated, one of the things we're doing, evaluating what we can control, these non-tax revenues, or some call enterprise funds. With ambulance revenue, we're looking at our process with A&B and aligning it with some standards industry-wide, with the hopes of yielding a better return. But that will be more to come, and time will tell on that one as well.
Chief, there was a time not too long ago where the subject of tower rents seemed to appear at most board meetings. And how are we doing with the tower rents and sorting that?
We're almost done. I think one's complete and one's final inked. So, yeah. And then one of them, frankly, it was a long process of back and forth, and then their attorney, those attorneys, how they work. Their attorney, it wasn't intentional, might have been a new person reviewing, but ultimately it completely shifted the balance of who's responsible when it breaks. And it's didn't match any of the language in our other contracts. So we're like, that was an all stop. Hey, whoa, you're not sneaking this in. We're not gonna fix your stuff if it breaks, basically. So it is more complex than I ever thought it could or should be. It's a bit frustrating, but we're holding our ground. We're not giving away freebies. And
Okay.
well, and it's frankly, it's frustrating because we're looking at some Verizon-based devices that will help us in our ambulances meet some statutory requirements. And we try to do reduce this cost, and we'll reduce this cost, and they won't match the two they wanted to. So we're like, fine, this rate's going up. And so we're working through that. Ambulance services, we've got year-over-year increases. We haven't been aggressive about that, but we're going to keep evaluating it. JVG looks at it every year, keeps us in the know. And then the other non-tax revenue is non-district fires. I think we've talked about our wildland revenue. And lastly, I'm going to ask Sarah for assistance, because this one I still navigate with difficulty. Is we've got a category described as other income. Sarah, take it away.
Really, that is just we call it miscellaneous. I hate that word, but that's really what it is. The biggest driver in that miscellaneous, though, is really related to our Prop 207 money. So that is the sales tax that we receive on sales of marijuana. And so we get a portion of that across from the state of Arizona. And so that's really what's driving most of that revenue. We get that 2 times a year in the December timeframe and then in the June timeframe. And then anything where the other thing that kind of makes up in the miscellaneous is we have some so if we did like training for CPR classes and things like that, we would have that hit in that other revenue kind of category, or any types of CRR stuff where we might do a plan review fee, things like that. So it's very small, unless we get some, large permits or large plan reviews that we're doing. Most of it's driven based off of that Prop 207 sales tax revenue.
Do you know if the changes from the feds are going to change any? That's just the 0.4%. Or you probably don't know because you're such a good person. But I looked into it's just mostly over the counter CBD products, right? It's not gonna impact marijuana sales.
That's my understanding.
Okay. And,
Online.
huh?
Online. You can
Yeah.
Delta.
And that's essentially kind of how our revenues work. I did for fun pull some tax bills, and they are of board members and employees, full disclosure. But I looked to find comparable assessment limited totals value in dollars properties. So it just as a reference, and this is kind of while I know we have a lot of very valuable property in the Sedona Fire District, I think this is a message for our residents, and that's so essentially a property in Sedona with a limited total value in dollars of 585,000. Their tax bill is to the fire district is $1,600. Now, that same house, this one was $587,000, but that's 20,000 variance. But in the Verde Valley Fire District, costs that taxpayer almost $2,000. And then a house with a valuation of $556,000 in the Copper Canyon Fire District is again paying $2,000. So for me, I'm a visual person, and that is a visual representation of how impactful a mill rate is. And because you say, oh, well, $2 versus $2.50, that's not that big a deal, but it is. It's hundreds of dollars for our taxpayers. And so I just wanted to present that as our mill rate is a key driver to me. And as explained before, each penny of our mill rate is about $85,000 in additional revenue to the district. So I loved that when Gabe and Sarah taught me that, because I'm not a mathematician, and that's simple. I'm like, how do we get $1 million more dollars? Oh, it's this many cents. And so, and I think maybe some of the board will appreciate the simplicity of that math, because then it helps you visualize it. But in essence, that's a kind of a little bit deeper dive in our revenues. Are there any questions?
Any questions? No. Gee, thank you for that.
Diana's raising her hand. Can you come off mute?
Yes, go for it.
Diana, you're on mute. I can't hear you. Can you pull yourself off?
Yeah,
mute?
now I'm good.
There you go.
Can you please give the mill rate again, please?
Now I'm gonna screw it up. It's 2.7592.
Doesn't seem screwed up at all. Thank you.
I'll remember until you ask me.
And
All right.
Chief, if I could just make one comment too, and I don't, forgive me, you might have mentioned this. I do want to mention that even though you might see growth today in properties that are, new growth, new opportunities that you guys are seeing within the district, it takes about 18 months for that to be reflected on your tax rolls. So what you see today, you might have, $100 million worth of new property value coming, but they will take 18 months before you really see that on something that we can then tax. So just kind of keep that in the forefront as well as you're going through that and you drive around. There's a lot of people that will drive around saying, oh, well, we have this property and we have this property. It takes a while before it'll get on our tax rolls.
Well, that's a great point. Thank you. And like for Copper Canyon, for example, a builder purchased a plot of land, put in a clubhouse, and then put in pre-built homes. Now you own the pre-built manufactured home, but you rent the property, so that whole place is assessed as one big commercial property at a lower rate. Those aren't individual homes, but it added 2,000 residents that are retired that call 911. So limited revenue increase that isn't recognized for 18 months to 2 years, which increases call volume and strain on the district. So that's why people say, why does the fire district get involved with planning and zoning? And that's why we want to make sure that the stuff that's getting built is going to support the increase in our service delivery. And then so if there aren't any more questions, I'll move on to capital project updates. All right.
Sounds good.
So, as stated, the feds are open back up, so we will have movement on the frequencies, which is the hold up to start building the racks for the radio system. So that's still moving. So that's good. Scott and I met with LEA and Core today, and we went through the spreadsheet that decides who's responsible for what with Station 4. For example, are we gonna shop for the tables for the station, or is that wrapped into the bill? Are we responsible for getting the geothermal engineering done, or is that just wrapped into this? And just all the line item stuff, FF&E, which I already forgot what it stands for. Fit, finish, and equipment. Yeah. For example, they're responsible for sourcing, installing the closets and the bed frame in the bedroom, but we're responsible for sourcing the mattresses that our guys like. And so it just went through this multi-page spreadsheet of all the details. With that being said, Friday we have a meeting at 10, and they state that they will get us a first blush price. So if you're bored on Friday, probably mid-afternoon, you're gonna get an email from me with a number to start chewing on.
It should be a theory of the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
It should get better.
In theory.
yeah,
Yeah, theory. If they tighten up, though, it should get better.
yeah. It'll be the oh boy, and then we start. Then the devil's in the details. Then it'll be, frankly, a month or two of meet with Bob, and I need 2 Cat 5 cables to each of these rooms. I need conduit around here and all this, and then meet with us and, just dive into the details and then sourcing materials and doing all that to get a better deal. For example, the perimeter fencing for the station currently is proposed as a color matched block wall. And we do a corrugated patina steel and cut the price in half. I don't know, but those are the details we'll start getting into to fine tune the pricing to bring to the board. But I'll keep you in the loop as promised as that progresses.
Just out of curiosity, and this is having built an addition, large addition. The thing that I found so valuable was being able to talk to our contractor when we were working on the design phase.
Yep.
Because they could point us to things that we could change or that didn't make sense. Is Core involved with this?
Oh no, this is the CMAR. We are in the CMAR.
Okay,
And no, it is like today was LEA and Core.
Okay.
And we were going line by line, and then we got to it was audio video for the stations. I said, we can go to Walmart and we got a deal on TVs. You guys will run all the wires and stuff, but we'll buy the TVs. We don't need you to pay somebody to go to Walmart buy TVs for us. So, and then we talked about materials, we talked about things like that, and that's where we're going to start steering this and tightening all that up. So,
thank you.
and then the last big capital project update is Scott and Elise and I did a field trip up to Slide Rock last week, or was it this week? Wait, I can't remember now. Right? Yeah. And we met Sam, the new park director for Slide Rock, and then Hank, who's the previous park director, who's now the regional director. Long short of it is, smarty pants, knowing the Land and Water Conservation Act inside and out, had a great conversation while Scott and I listened with the state park. And to our benefit, the lies I told you last year about how we have to find land in Tucson and buy it, swap it, is absolutely not looking like the case. The Land and Water Conservation Fund has shifted a lot of policy. It happened in June of this year, and it's really rolling out now. And it is really looking like we can work in conjunction with the park to improve the services they provide and infrastructure. And one example is they asked we may want you to run some plumbing for future park housing for staff. Well, we would have to dig that trench to the wastewater treatment on site to put our pipe in. And so that's where the cost lies that we would bear anyway. So we'll just lay more pipe in the trench when we have it open and then facilitate their needs. So it was exciting because a lot of the things they preliminarily said they want work in concert with the things we have to do to build a station there. So the optics of spending a bunch of money for the state that really doesn't have a mutual benefit aren't there. And then in addition to that, it seems the process has become a lot cleaner. Still 2-3 year process, but that's cleaner than it was. And then the last thing is Elise has done some digging, and there have been some extraordinarily unique grant-funded co-located projects within the land and water conservation grant process that we feel align very much with public safety. So the potential exists. We could get a substantial piece of the Station 5 project captured in a grant. So more to come.
That's great.
So what does that mean? That's a neat story, Ed. What that means is we're now putting together a draft proposal per the request of the Park Service, and then their mid-level will take first blush at it and green light it or not, or modify it. And then December, we will start to creep up the chain. And so Hank indicated that for the state piece of the process, it's a year. However, I'm aggressively pursuing it because we have a window before the 2026 elections, and the current folks that line up with the state park processes are very much in favor, he believes, in working with us. So we want to try to capture momentum before the potential exists that we nuke the state legislature and the governor and all that stuff. So more to come, but aggressive pursuit. Station 4 is his problem. Working on the next one. And that for
Exciting.
for capital.
Well, when you think about the distance between a year ago, which was, well, I guess it'll happen maybe in our life,
Yeah.
to suddenly, we're accelerating and it's gaining traction, and, we can envision an outcome for a new Station 5. It's exciting.
Well, and frankly, it's purely because of the fact that they changed the rules. I think it's the biggest piece of the puzzle that lined up for us.
And we have kind of an inside track.
Oh, no, geez. No, I'm not joking. Scott and I sat there like we're at the kids' table at Thanksgiving and just watched her do her thing, and then we walked away. I didn't even know what she was talking about, but Hank was nodding in agreement. Good.
Dazzling acronyms.
Yeah. And it's really cool, the fairly new Slide Rock director who by all rights could care less seemed to have a level of excitement about it, because we're like, hey, what do you guys want? Because there will be a piece of that. We will inevitably, a piece of Station 5 will definitely be to the benefit of state park or county sheriff or something. That will be the end with the grant piece. So more to come. But I'm excited to hopefully have regular, every 2 months we might have some news. I don't know. Hank says it's a process.
Keep plugging away.
And how many, what is it called? When the conditional or when you change the thing, they said that they have like 19 of them active right now.
Oh, conversion.
Yeah, conversions. It's called a conversion. And there's 19 right now, but
Arizona State has quite a few. And so any state park or any land that's funded through Land and Water Conservation Fund is in perpetuity protected as outdoor recreation. And so at the time Chief met with them a year and a half ago or so, they believe that a fire station would cause a conversion because it doesn't align with outdoor recreation. And Land and Water Conservation made the change right before I jumped over here to start expanding what could qualify for grants. And they now have opportunities for like multi-purpose projects where you can have something in support of conservation. So we're gonna try to make the pitch that the fire station and any of those kind of infrastructure upgrades are in support of it, and so it wouldn't trigger the conversion and then finding a one-to-one piece of land somewhere in the state of Arizona.
Like that, for example, the park has identified as of late a need for a classroom for doing enrichment activities with school children or clubs or groups. I'm like, done, we'll put a training room on our station that we always do on every station anyway. And we'll have a training room there for us and them, and it's a co-located space, and it's a pipe in the ground for a couple tiny homes for employees down the road. So yeah, more to come. I don't want to get too excited yet because there's too many bureaucracies we got to navigate, but it seems like the path kind of cleared up a little bit. So
Well, thank you for your persistence, and Elise, thank you for your wisdom.
wicked smart. All right, and then I will do call volume. And then yeah, we had the 3 fires, battery, dumpster, and the other one. Rescue and EMS calls, you can see there year over year. We're down a little bit, but we'll catch up. And then rest of the calls as usual. Next slide, please. Station responses. Station 3 for the win this month. Again, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Most of those calls are on the back of our fine ambulance crews. They keep the district afloat. Hence the need for regular remounts. Smiles on those faces. All right, next slide. This one's hard to read. This just basically shows where they responded, whether it was in their first due area or in another first due area. So like Station 1, for example, easiest colors for me to read. They had 11 responses to Station 4's area. Because Station 4 was always out on calling, and 5 to Station 3, which most likely was ambulances. Ambulance 511 going out there. It's rare we need the engine to get out there. All right, next slide. All right, year over year dispatch handling times. So dispatch notified handling time, the average is 112 last year, or I'm sorry, this year, and it was 47 seconds this year. And I drilled down that one to figure out the one. That one's out of our control. That could be that month a bunch of calls go into Sedona PD first, so it slows the process. Or it could be a blip where we have a 3-month period where half a dispatch quit and they're training new people. So one, that number's out of our control, and 2, it's a good measure, and it's something we can use when we discuss things with our partners. Hey, we can trend what's going on. When you get a county sheriff that wants to say that a singular dispatch center will save all problems, this is the information that informs how we react to those statements. And turnout time year over year staying pretty average. Turnout time staying pretty standard at 1:41 seconds. Total response times this year average is 8. Is that hand up?
No.
It's just beeping. And then it's come down a little bit from last year. Gosh dang it. I have an eye appointment next Monday, by the way. And then unit travel time. We're staying right at around 6 minutes, so that's good. Next slide.
Before you leave, I just have a question for you.
Yes.
I was the infamous accident on 179.
Uh-huh.
I was reading, I have to read the article.
I read it too, and I need to follow up on it.
The times.
I'm sorry to catch you off. We did not respond 4 hours later. Yeah, I caught that the other day and I meant to follow up and then I got sidetracked, but I just read that article and yes, we were there. Much before that. Yeah, devil's in the details.
Yeah.
And then ambulance response times, again, come down a little bit, 15 seconds or so. So that's good. And then EMS road time, my favorite stat, staying pretty consistent. And again, I said last one, this is the one I care about. I didn't mean that I don't care about the other ones as much, but this is the one that really has the most impact to us financially and from a staffing perspective, because of an hour and 24 minutes of an ambulance on the road means that's an hour and 24 minutes out of service. And if we see that number increase or change dramatically, that indicates the need for an additional ambulance, which is then a whole bunch of different financial requirements. So when I said last month that this is the one I look at the most, that was the reason why. And it wasn't discounting the other data that we report out on. Because this is the one that costs the most fixed. And that is it for my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief? All right. So discussion and possible action for the possible approval of a memorandum of understanding for the 2024 Assistance to Firefighters Grant and the associated expenditure of cost share funds in the amount of $21,889,000 to support cancer screening for the Sedona Fire District staff.
Right. So we've had this grant in the past, it's the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. In the past, it was kind of sponsored by a different group. This year, CASMA applied for it and was just granted the award. So we are set up as a partner agency in that. The award requires a 90-10 cost share, and as a partner agency will be responsible for that 10% match associated with each member who participates in the, is it Vinsphere? Okay. Vinsphere Cancer Center screening. Fiona sent me a little bit of information. She said firefighters have a 50% higher potential for a risk of cancer compared to the general population. And early detection is really vital to saving lives. And this is tied directly to early detection. And I believe she also, and she feel free to jump in, but it sounds like the grant covers the initial screening and routine screening every 2 to 3 years. So a lot of our guys have now a baseline and then can get checked up every 2 to 3 years.
And it extends to the grant, not necessarily, but the service extends to spouses and administrative folks. And this is a, if I'm not mistaken, this is a not to exceed because it's dependent upon how many people get their screening this year. I, for example, won't get one because I had one late last year, and just that they don't recommend going there every year to do it. And so.
Thank you for that. So the action today would be to sign an MOU so that we can participate as a partner agency.
And as a point of clarity, this is well within my spending authority, and I would be signing the IGA. And the reason I agendized it for approval is one to publicly recognize the efforts we're making to keep our folks safe, and two, to just have an opportunity to discuss with the board if you had any questions.
So let me ask my colleagues, are there any questions?
Really appreciate that level of transparency.
Now, let me echo that. I appreciate you bringing these kinds of things to us. So we're aware of them. So thank you for that.
What it mattered, this process mattered to me, but then it really hit home when I had personal friends in the fire service get very early detected cancers that were, it was a yawn, the treatment was a yawn, and I don't mean to discount the fact that they had weeks of concern and worry why tests were done and everything, but it was caught so early that the intervention was so minimal that they were just like, oh, okay, cool. And so it's pretty neat.
Right. All right, so I move to approve the memorandum of understanding for the 2024 Assistance to Firefighters Grant and the associated expenditure of cost share funds in the amount of $21,889 to support cancer screenings for the Sedona Fire District staff. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Thank you.
I think that's approved. I realize I did have one question for you. It was not clear to me from the documents whether this is this year's budget or next year's budget.
It would be next year, right? It's, it was, they were able to apply for, I think, in 2024 and then federal grant.
I'll triple check that, but it's.
I just was curious.
Yeah.
It was mixed in there for me and I
Yeah.
Well, you know why if you look at our budget book, the year we're in is highlighted now, because Buzz and I couldn't figure out what year we were in. Like, I had a mental block where I'm like, no, it's 25, no, it's 26. So Sarah highlighted it for us.
That's good. Well, I think that's approved. Okay, so board member updates and ideas for future meetings. And Diana, since you are not here physically, do you have anything you want to add or ask?
No, thanks.
Okay. Any other board member updates or ideas for future meetings and anything you want to add?
I just have one thing.
Yes.
So we have, and Chief is aware of it, Battalion Chief Lukowski is aware of it. We have some really promising things on the horizon when it comes to transportation. And I passed it all to you all because it's your lane. And we could have some discussions in the future, but the sun is breaking through the clouds on that.
Yeah. Got anything?
Bye.
Then I have just a couple of things.
I apologize. We have another slide. Is there another one? Okay, I didn't want to miss Draco Magazine. Cornerstone Bible Church. They brought by these really cool first responder support boxes there. They full of lots of goodies. And I just want to make sure we recognize them.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really cool for first responders. Day. Okay, thank you.
Great. No, thank you. Okay. The chief and I've had a brief conversation. That, I know the other board members, and I think I appreciate all the things our firefighters do for us every day. But we've got the holiday season coming. And is there something that we could do that would be nice for the board to do for our firefighters? And the chief, I know you were rummaging around for ideas,
I'm
and
not laughing at you. I'm laughing at both.
that's okay.
I got some ideas.
You got a good one. I hope that
No, I kid.
so I just put it out there. I think it would be nice on behalf of the board for us to do something that specifically recognizes our appreciation for the firefighters for the holiday season. So I'll put that out there, and Chief, if you have ideas you want to share, great. And if not, let's.
I told some people, I'm trying to capture, they do appreciate what you guys do. And that's not anecdotal or blowing smoke. It's like, you guys support what we're doing as a district, and that's wages and benefits and good equipment and good stations. And so they're well aware of that. And so I'm not discounting. I think it's a great idea. I'm just trying to think of a practical way for you guys to do it. Because buy them all a ribeye roast. Okay, well that's going to be $4,000. And I just don't know. What anything adds value, but I would like it to be intentful.
And I'm of the same mind. And I rapidly, I said, well, I can do what I did with Keep Your Pets Fire Safe, but the chief's response, which is very valid, was, and it will join the pile of rotting food in every fire station.
Great. I mentioned that.
That's what we have a mill.
Well, yeah, and I mentioned that, like, because we were talking about food or something, but you go by any of our fire stations from now until Christmas, and there's a variety of homemade trays of goodness just slowly getting nibbled on, and it just becomes overwhelming. It's wonderful and appreciated, but still no pot brownies. So everybody can feel the sugar cookies.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That's a story from back east. Somebody did that to a fire station.
Yeah.
I should have prefaced it. They had to take the crew out of service.
I'm gonna cut there back east. No, I'm gonna do that. All right. The other thing that I would like to do, which is, we have a visitor here today who is not normally here, who came specifically to meet us.
Yes.
And so, Mr. Whittington, would you like to introduce your colleague and come up, have a chance to?
You all have seen the name before because he's been involved in quite a few projects that you guys are involved in, but he hasn't come here. And I spoke with the board chair a month or so ago, and she suggested that you join us so you can actually introduce yourself. This is one of my new partners in the firm, and I'll let him give you some background about where he's from, where he went to school, and what he does.
Well, so I started up in Bill's office in 2023, came up from way out in the valley, town of Florence, if anybody knows where that's at. A lot of prisons out there, so not a whole lot to do.
So you got out of prison, then.
Went to law school, yeah.
So, I was out there, went to ASU, then went to U of A, then found myself in Prescott and kind of been there ever since, and happy to be there, happy to be here in front of you folks, and looking forward to what the future has in store.
Well, welcome, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Are you working to sneak in on Bill's action? Is that the plan?
You already have.
I already am, that's right.
Yeah, it's been great to have his backup. He has a lot of business background, a lot of real estate background, a lot of contract background, so it's nice to be able to look for that support. So
I've been doing this for 20 years, Bill, maybe retire.
Let's call it 40. Yeah. Just you were around, I think, when I first came on board. It's been about 40 years since we started representing Sedona back in the day. We came on to Sedona when you guys were starting your merger, a little bit before that. So our first intense interaction with Sedona was back in the merger. You're the only guy in the building older than me. I do want to point out, however, Tomas's claim to fame, speaking about food, is he's the best chef I've ever seen in my life. And so every year we have a food cook-off. He wins it all the time, every time. I was second place last year. I intend to challenge him this year, but he's got an eye for it. He's one of the best chefs I've ever met.
That's great. Thomas, thank you for coming today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think you see we are, we can be informal, but we are also formal and do the things we need to do. But we have a culture of this is our family. And so welcome. I'm glad you came today, and we look forward to working with you as we work with Bill. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
Sure, yeah, welcome.
So unless there's any other business,
Madam Chair, as a point of order, I've got the minutes you approved by you all tonight that need to be signed by Corey. Is your preference that we just have her come in tomorrow and do it, or did you want to sign and denote that you signed them?
I can sign them,
Okay.
save her the
Okay.
trip, and yes. Yes,
Can I clarify the time thing? That call. Oh, the
Please do.
newspaper. Yeah, so it was 5 minutes and 2 seconds for the first engine from the tones going off in the station. And then there was 2 engines, an ambulance and the duty chief within 7 minutes and 40 seconds.
I believe it. It's just reading that,
Yeah.
you know, the police were there at 2:48 and we got there at 9:00.
Yeah, they were there for 4 days, yeah.
On that wonderful note, this meeting is adjourned.